I never thought I'd see her again. 3 days ago, a woman with freckles I memorized from 1,000 missing posters walked into LAPD Parker Center and said my name. The same girl who vanished from Malibu 18 years ago. The same case that destroyed my life. Harper Jones is alive, and I was right all along. But the truth? Nobody's ready for what really happened that night in 2007. May 3rd, 2007, Malibu, California. If you weren't around back then, let me paint you a picture. The iPhone had just dropped 3 months earlier. Everyone was still on MySpace, Paris Hilton was getting out of jail, and gas prices were hitting $3 a gallon, which felt insane at the time. Malibu was exactly what you'd expect. Celebrities hiding behind gates on Pacific Coast Highway, soccer moms in Range Rovers, paparazzi camping outside Nobu, and tucked right on the beach, Paradise Cove Resort, one of those luxury vacation spots where a week would cost you what most people made in a month. That's where the Jones family was staying. Sarah and Michael Jones, upper middle class family from Seattle, tech money, 2 kids. Well, 3 actually. Harper was their oldest at 3 years old. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and this constellation of freckles across her nose that made her look like every all-American kid you'd see in a Cheerios commercial. Then there were the twins, Emma and Jack, barely 18 months old. They'd rented a ground floor condo, Unit 5A, ocean view, private patio, 50 yards from the beach, the kind of place you see in vacation brochures. I was working security at Paradise Cove that summer, had been for 6 years. Good job, decent pay. I knew every family that came through. Helped guests with their luggage, kept an eye on the parking lot, made sure nobody wandered into areas they shouldn't. May 3rd started like any other Thursday. Clear skies, that perfect 72 degrees that makes everyone forget why they don't live in California. Families were out on the beach, kids building sandcastles, the smell of sunscreen and salt water in the air. Nobody had any idea that by midnight, this place would be swarming with FBI agents, news helicopters, and enough camera crews to film a blockbuster. Around 7 p.m., I saw the Jones family heading to dinner. Sarah was wearing this white sundress. Michael had the twins in a double stroller. Harper was skipping ahead, carrying that blue stuffed dolphin she took everywhere. They were going to the Saltwater Grill, the resort's restaurant. Nice place, beachfront dining. You could sit outside, have some wine, watch the sunset. A lot of parents did it. Leave the kids asleep in the room, keep the baby monitor on, check every 20 minutes. It was the kind of thing that felt safe in a gated resort. The restaurant was maybe 150 feet from their unit. You could literally see their patio from certain tables. At 9:30 p.m., everything was fine. Michael went back to check. Harper was asleep in her bed, covers pulled up to her chin. The twins were knocked out in their crib. He was back at the restaurant within 5 minutes. 9:50 p.m. Sarah's turn. Same routine. Peeked in, saw Harper sleeping, came back. Told Michael everything was good. 10:10 p.m. Sarah went back again. And that's when her scream cut through the entire resort. I was doing my rounds near the main pool when I heard it. That sound, it wasn't just a scream. It was the kind of sound that makes your blood freeze. The sound a mother makes when her whole world just collapsed. I ran toward Unit 5A. Other guests were already coming out of their rooms. Michael was sprinting from the restaurant. By the time I got there, Sarah was standing in the doorway, shaking, hyperventilating. The front door was cracked open. Not kicked in, not broken, just open. Like someone had closed it, but didn't let it latch. Inside, Harper's bed was empty. Sheets thrown back, her blue dolphin on the floor. The window, that ground floor window that opened directly to the side parking lot, was wide open. The screen had been removed, not torn, carefully removed and leaned against the wall. The twins were still sleeping, completely undisturbed, like nothing had happened. But Harper was gone. Michael called 911 at 10:15 p.m. I remember standing there, watching him pace back and forth, phone shaking in his hand. My daughter's missing. Someone took my daughter. She's 3 years old. Please, you need to send everyone. Paradise Cove Resort in Malibu. Please hurry. The Malibu Sheriff's Station was there in 4 minutes. Then more units. Then the FBI. By 11 p.m., there were helicopters with searchlights circling the beach, dogs brought in from LA County, volunteers organizing search parties, news vans rolling up Pacific Coast Highway. And then the questions started. Who had access to the units? Who was working tonight? who was seen near that building. 3 guesses who fit all those criteria. Within 6 hours, I went from being the guy trying to help find Harper to being the guy they thought took her. Here's what they had. I was on duty. I had master keys to all the units. I'd been seen near Building 5 around 9:45 p.m., which was literally my job. I was doing security rounds. And some guest, some Karen who wanted her 15 minutes on CNN, told deputies I'd been acting suspicious near the parking lot. Acting suspicious. I was checking car doors, making sure nobody's vehicle got broken into. But in her mind, that translated to, this guy's a creep. By noon on May 4th, I was being interrogated at the Malibu Sheriff's Station. Not as a witness, as a suspect. They separated me from everyone. Put me in that little gray room you see on every cop show. 2 detectives, 1 good cop, 1 bad cop. Straight out of a script. Where were you between 10 and 10:15 p.m.? Did you enter Unit 5A at any point last night? Do you know the Jones family? Have you ever been alone with Harper Jones? I told them the truth. I was doing my rounds. I never went into their unit. I barely knew the family beyond saying hello when they checked in. I had no reason to hurt that little girl. But they didn't care about the truth. They cared about closing the case. They got a warrant, searched my apartment in Santa Monica, tore through everything. My computer, my phone, my car. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. But by that evening, my face was on every news channel in America. Security guard questioned in Harper Jones' disappearance. Nancy Grace dedicated an entire hour to me, showed my DMV photo on a split screen with Harper's smiling face, called me a person of interest, which is just a polite way of calling someone guilty before they're charged. TMZ was camped outside my apartment. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they all wanted the story. Who is this security guard? What do we know about him? Could he be responsible? I got death threats, hundreds of them, people saying they hoped I'd rot in hell, saying they knew where I lived, saying they'd kill me themselves if the cops didn't do their job. My boss called me on May 5th, said I was being placed on administrative leave. By May 6th, I was fired. We can't have you working here during an active investigation. It's bad for business. I'm sure you understand. I understood perfectly. I was being thrown under the bus. My landlord gave me 30 days to move out, said other tenants were scared. My girlfriend left me, said she couldn't handle the pressure. My own parents started asking questions. Are you sure you're telling us everything? Like even they weren't convinced I was innocent. The FBI kept me under surveillance for months. Every time I went to the grocery store, there was an unmarked car following me. Every job I applied for, I'd get a call back, and then suddenly they'd decided to go with another candidate. One Google search of my name, and you'd see 1,000 articles linking me to Harper Jones. I became unemployable, undateable, unforgiven. And I didn't do a damn thing wrong. For 18 years, I lived with that. The stares, the whispers, moving from city to city, trying to outrun a reputation that followed me everywhere, working under the table jobs because nobody would officially hire me, sleeping in my car some nights because I couldn't afford rent, all because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, all because they needed someone to blame. Meanwhile, the actual investigation into Harper's disappearance went absolutely nowhere. The FBI set up a command center at Paradise Cove, interviewed every guest, every staff member, every person within a 5-mile radius who might have seen something. They combed the beach with metal detectors, searched storm drains, dredged parts of the ocean. Nothing. Sarah and Michael did everything you'd expect desperate parents to do. Press conferences, reward money, they eventually raised over $250,000 for information. They went on Oprah, Dr. Phil, Good Morning America. Sarah wrote a book in 2010 called Still Searching. Michael quit his job to focus on the case full time. They never stopped looking, never stopped believing Harper was out there. But as the months turned into years, the media moved on. New stories, new tragedies. Harper became another face on a missing child poster, another cold case file in some FBI storage room. The leads dried up, the tips stopped coming in. And slowly, people started accepting that Harper Jones was probably dead. Except for one thing. They never found a body. And that's the detail that kept this case alive. Because without remains, without physical evidence, there was always that tiny sliver of hope that maybe somehow Harper was still out there. In 2011, the LAPD officially launched Operation Spotlight, a dedicated task force to review the case with fresh eyes. They brought in new detectives, new forensic analysts, behavioral specialists. They re-interviewed witnesses, re-examined every piece of evidence. Still nothing. By 2015, even the most optimistic investigators were privately admitting defeat. Sarah and Michael held a memorial service on Harper's 13th birthday. Not a funeral. They refused to call it that. But it was their way of trying to find some closure. The case was still technically open, but it was cold, frozen solid, until 2023, when everything changed. In March 2023, FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. got a call from German federal investigators. They wanted to talk about an American cold case. Specifically, they wanted to talk about Harper Jones. The Germans had a suspect, a man named Christian Bruckner. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Bruckner had been all over international news. He was serving 7 years in a German prison for raping a 72-year-old American tourist in Portugal back in 2005. Brutal case. He was a career criminal, theft, drug trafficking, sexual assault. He'd been in and out of prisons across Europe for decades. But here's where it gets interesting. Bruckner didn't just live in Europe. Between 2000 and 2017, he spent significant time in the United States. California specifically. He moved around a lot. Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Long Beach, working odd jobs, staying off the grid. And in 2007, the year Harper disappeared, he was living in LA. German investigators started digging into his background after his arrest. They seized his computers, his phones, his storage units, and what they found was disturbing. Thousands of photos. Photos of American beaches, photos taken outside resorts, photos of children playing in public spaces, time-stamped, geotagged, including photos taken at Paradise Cove Resort in April 2007, 1 month before Harper vanished. The FBI immediately reopened the case. They started building a profile, and the more they looked, the worse it got. A 2022 German documentary uncovered records showing Bruckner had worked occasional maintenance gigs at Paradise Cove between 2006 and 2007. Under the table. Cash jobs, fixing electrical issues, painting, minor repairs. He had access to the units. He knew the layout. He knew which families were staying where. Cell phone records, old ones they'd archived but never fully analyzed, showed Bruckner's phone pinging off a tower near Malibu the night of May 3, 2007, around 10 p.m., right when Harper disappeared. Then there was the car. In mid-May 2007, 2 weeks after the disappearance, Bruckner sold his van, a white Dodge, to a junkyard in Nevada for cash. No paperwork. The van was crushed and scrapped within days. Convenient. Federal prosecutors in Germany officially named him as the prime suspect in Harper Jones' disappearance in late 2023. They suspected kidnapping, possibly murder, but they had a problem. No body, no witnesses. No physical evidence tying him directly to the crime, just circumstantial connections. Strong ones, sure, but not enough for charges, not enough for a conviction. Bruckner, for his part, denied everything. Gave interviews from prison saying he had nothing to do with Harper. Called it a witch hunt. Said investigators were desperate to pin unsolved cases on him because he was an easy target. And legally, he was right. They couldn't prove it. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. So the case remained in limbo. Bruckner stayed in prison in Germany for his other crimes. The investigation stayed open, but there was no justice, no answers, no closure, until June 2025. On June 2, 2025, joint German and American authorities announced something that shocked everyone who'd been following the case. They were conducting new searches in Malibu, not just anywhere, specific locations, 21 different properties within a 2-mile radius of Paradise Cove Resort, areas that Bruckner was known to have frequented between 2006 and 2007. It was the first major ground operation in over 2 years. The last big search had been in 2023 when they dredged a remote reservoir about 40 miles from Malibu. Found nothing. But this time felt different. The warrants were specific. German prosecutors had clearly uncovered new information, something that justified mobilizing dozens of agents. Ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, forensic teams. Pacific Coast Highway was shut down in sections, news helicopters were back, TMZ, CNN, local stations. Everyone descended on Malibu like it was 2007 all over again. Sarah and Michael were there, watching from a distance, 18th anniversary of their daughter's disappearance, and they were back where it all started, hoping for a miracle. The searches went on for 4 days, June 2nd through June 5th. Investigators dug up sections of undeveloped land, searched abandoned structures, used drones with thermal imaging. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, nothing. By day 4, the media was already writing headlines about another dead end. Another expensive search with no results. Another reminder that Harper Jones was gone and probably never coming back. But on the morning of June 6th, everything changed. Not because of what they found in Malibu, because of who walked into LAPD Parker Center in downtown Los Angeles. Her name was Harper. At least, that's what she told the desk sergeant at 8:30 a.m. on June 6, 2025. She was 21 years old, blonde hair, now darker than it was in the childhood photos, blue eyes, and scattered across her nose, a constellation of freckles. The sergeant thought it was a prank, or a mentally ill person, or one of the dozen other people over the years who'd claimed to be Harper Jones looking for attention. But she had details that were never made public. She described the layout of Unit 5A, the blue dolphin stuffed animal, the sailboat mobile that hung above her bed, the specific pattern of tiles in the bathroom. She knew that her mom always wore Chanel No. 5 perfume, that her dad had a scar on his left hand from a fishing accident, that the twins had a birthmark, Emma on her ankle, Jack on his shoulder. She described the night she disappeared, being carried out through the window, the smell of cigarette smoke, a van with no back windows, driving for hours, waking up in a place she didn't recognize. The desk sergeant called a detective. The detective called the FBI. Within an hour, Harper was in a secure interview room with federal agents, a trauma counselor, and a DNA kit. They swabbed her cheek, rushed it to the lab, called Sarah and Michael, told them not to get their hopes up, told them they'd know something within 72 hours. The test came back in 48, 99.9% match. Harper Elizabeth Jones, born March 15, 2004. Missing since May 3, 2007, alive. The story Harper told federal investigators is something out of a nightmare. Christian Bruckner had been watching the Jones family for days, knew their routine, knew when the parents went to dinner, knew which window led to Harper's room. On the night of May 3rd, he removed the screen, climbed in, took Harper while she slept, put his hand over her mouth so she wouldn't scream, carried her out to his van parked 2 blocks away. He kept her in California for 3 months, moved her to Arizona, then New Mexico, eventually took her overseas, told her that her parents had abandoned her, that nobody was looking for her, that she was his daughter now. For 18 years, she lived in different countries, different names, always moving, always isolated, homeschooled, no friends, no contact with the outside world. But in early 2025, Bruckner got arrested in Germany, extradited for his other crimes. And for the first time in her life, Harper had access to the internet. She started searching her own face, missing children, Malibu 2007, and she found herself. Hundreds of articles, photos, age progression images showing what she might look like now. Videos of her parents begging for her return. She realized the truth. Everything Bruckner told her was a lie. She contacted the American Embassy in Germany. They helped her get back to the States. And on June 6th, she walked into LAPD Parker Center and reclaimed her life. The reunion with Sarah and Michael happened 2 days later. Private. No cameras, just a family that spent 18 years torn apart, finally whole again. As for me, the security guard who lost everything, when the case broke, when Harper's story went public, when Bruckner was formally charged with kidnapping, the FBI issued a statement. We can confirm that the former Paradise Cove Resort security guard had no involvement in the disappearance of Harper Jones. We apologize for the pain caused by the investigation. 18 years too late. But I'll take it. Harper asked to meet me last week. We sat in a coffee shop in Santa Monica. She thanked me, said she was sorry for what I went through, said she wished she could have said something sooner. I told her it wasn't her fault. None of it was. Harper Jones is 21 now. She's alive, she's free, and she's finally home. The truth took 18 years, but it came out. And sometimes, that's all you can ask for.